Most softwares compete on tools, we compete on outcomes. So we asked ourselves, what would make our offer dramatically more valuable than other existing platforms? In this video, you'll see how we focused on reframing our athlete data tracking system, how we integrated it to make it easy to interpret, and why this matters as a differentiating factor to make our offer unresistible. My name is Dominic, I'm a weightlifter and I've been coaching weightlifting for years, and now I'm building the best weightlifting SaaS for athletes and coaches. And we're using Alex Hormozi's $100 million scaling roadmap to help us guide us through the business decisions. And currently we're on step 0 and we're still beta testing the SaaS. One essential part in making an amazing offer is differentiation, or at least make existing features better. When we looked at the current coaching software market, we noticed something interesting. Most platforms help you write and sell programs. Very few help you track athletes' performance over time. There's tracking, but there's very little clarity. And that's a problem. Because coaching isn't about writing workouts. It's about making decisions week to week, month to month. In a micro scale and in a macro scale. And decision quality depends on visibility. During our years of coaching, we saw the same trends emerging. Athlete feedback is really hard to gather. They forget to text you, and they text you on a Sunday evening, and they ask you for a workout plan on Monday lunchtime. So you're kind of stuck always asking them, oh, can you give me the feedback a little bit earlier so I can have more time to write the workout plans? And when your decision-making time shrinks, quality usually tends to drop as well. That's not a feature problem, that's a system problem. And that drains energy. You're not actually coaching. Half the time you're just trying to gather the feedback, try and remember how the workouts were, but that's not what coaching is supposed to be. You're supposed to be writing the workout plans, thinking of the athlete's long-term progress. So we decided we're not going to put the fault on either the athlete or the coach. We're going to create a system where feedback goes from athlete to coach seamlessly. You shouldn't be guessing, you shouldn't be scrolling through notes, you shouldn't rely on your memory. So if I'm a coach and I'm building the 4th week, I want to see week 3's data. What I want to see as a coach, I want to see 1. What were the planned sets, the planned reps, and the planned weight? And then I want to see what the athlete actually did, if he skipped some sets, if he added some more in, if he followed the weight prescription, or if he went off program, and how those sets actually felt like. So when we know what the athlete actually ended up doing, not only what was planned, we can adjust better. Because what we're trying to do is not forcing progression, but understanding how the athlete actually feels like, so we can adjust better and work on his long-term progress. And on a macro level, I want to understand the athlete. How does he respond to volume? How does he respond to intensity? Where does he tend to miss? At what percentage points? And here we want to have graphs that indicate this pretty clearly. So we want to see the evolution, for example, of the percentages where he starts to miss some weights. When there's a threshold of volume around here, we know he tends to miss, let's say, when it's over 90%. But when the volume gets higher, for example, at this threshold, we can see that maybe the athlete actually starts to miss as of 85%. Maybe this could indicate that this is too much volume for him currently. So like that, we can understand maybe the increase we made from month 1 to month 2 was too much. So we're going to decrease it in month 3 and maybe trying to understand what types of volume jumps or intensity jumps this athlete actually supports. And what's really important for us as a software company is we want to make this data visible and clear for coaches. It's not supposed to be hidden in some complex spreadsheet formulas, but this should be easy identifiable trends, so like that the coach can make better decisions and the athlete can continue performing. So athlete tracking isn't important because it logs more data. It's important because it reduces time to make the right decisions. It increases overall visibility on the athlete's profile. This to reduce workloads for coaches unrelated to the specific task of coaching. And that's how tracking becomes a differentiator. It's not just a feature, it's a real leverage point for us. So up until now, we've talked about tracking as a coaching advantage. But there's more to this. Why this matters for the coach's business. Because coaches don't just want better data. They want better athlete performance, higher satisfaction levels, lower churn rates, and a stronger reputation. And those are all connected. When an athlete sees clear progress, he doesn't just think, oh, I'm getting stronger. He actually trusts the coach more to make the decisions for him. If the performance is visible and explainable, trust goes up. When feedback is delayed, the implementation will also be delayed. But when the feedback is immediate, we can start implementing the feedback directly. With quick feedback we have a lower risk of overtraining, we have a higher understanding of fatigue, injury probability goes down, and we limit the risk for random plateaus. So overall, we have the athlete in a better health, he performs better, and overall, he's more satisfied with the coaching experience. Because when athletes see progress, they tend to be more satisfied and they also stay longer with you. And when an athlete stays longer with the coach, that also increases revenue dramatically. And that helps twofold. Because the coach doesn't need to spend time to try and look for new clients. So we can say that the churn rate goes down. And the second part is more reputational / referrals from the athletes. Because when an athlete is really satisfied with your coaching services, he might talk to his friends about it. Because when somebody asks you as an athlete, oh, who's coaching you? It usually means one of two things. One, your progress is shit, technique is shit. And the second option is a lot more positive. Because the person who's asking you this, they're like, okay, who's your coach? What are you doing differently? Can I contact them? And that's how you also start to get some organic referral, because your coaching is getting better and better and your athlete's performance progress serves as your marketing, because they're testimonials. And people come to you organically asking you for coaching services without you having to promote them. That's been my experience at least. And this isn't about just being nice to people or nice to your athlete. You want to build a business engine where athlete progression serves as testimonials. Because when you have better visibility, you make better decisions and you have better results. And those results get you a higher satisfaction with your athlete, it gets you a higher LTV, it lowers churn, and you get more organic referrals. And that's real leverage as a coach. So once it was clear for us that tracking actually strengthened the coach's business, we had to implement this into our software correctly. The strategy always sounds clear on paper, but in reality, it's always a little bit harder. So the first decision was to know which data matters really and how do we parse it through from the athlete to the coach's side, easily without having the coaches asking the athletes for the feedback. We do this by making the app attractive on the athlete side and facilitating easy feedback loops. What we did is use emojis, for example, to give the feeling of the set. A cross was a missed set, a smiley emoji means that the set was easy. And this feedback might sound like dumbing it down a little bit, but we thought the easier it is for an athlete to give the feedback, the more probability there is that he's actually going to give it to him. If he has to describe it within a text format and give it to the coach, nor the athlete wants to write that much, nor the coach wants to read all of that. And then on the coach's side, we had to work on the micro and the macro feedback loop. The micro is just when the coach is building the upcoming week, he has to be able to see the feedback from the past week from the athlete. The macro is trying to build graphs that make sense, that are easy to interpret without being a hassle to set up. This allows for week-to-week comparison, exercise-to-exercise tracking, and spot recovery trends. And we knew from the start that we wanted to have these data points. So that's why when setting up the app in the back end, we allowed for placeholders to hold these values, even though we didn't really know at that point how we wanted the UI and the UX to display. And now we rework those so like that from the athlete side, it encourages them to give the feedback, and on the coach's side, it's easier to interpret these data. And that's why having beta testers is really important. We have about 15 coaches testing the app and giving active feedback. And this ecosystem is really important so like that we could refine our software and make it as enjoyable to use as possible. So if you're a weightlifting coach, you can see how having a strong athlete data tracking system is not only important for the athlete's performance, but also for your business. And you can check out strengthacademy.app to see how our athlete data tracking system can actually help your coaching business. And if you're building a B2B or a B2B2C SaaS, keep this in mind. Your offer becomes really powerful when you think about your customers' economics when you're building your SaaS.